But how you been? You been staying out of trouble, or you been doing anything, Elvis? Or
I'm a very good girl. I was always a good girl.
yeah.
I'm a 50s girl to the living end.
Yes, I know that. I know that. And you never sold yourself short or anything. I think that's what's great about you.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you never got into the trying to make money off of Elvis, and never did the thing with it.
My life has been one of lost all my money to Elvis.
Oh, and I know you never was a fan of the Colonels and stuff, and that I always thought.
No, that was the original break between me and that whole organization. You know, he was the controller, and you know that still kind of permeates a little bit today in other areas. You know, it's like the day you try to control or restrict the fans, you're starting the end of your doom as far as your demise. You know, that's not a good plan.
EPE's doing that right now.
Oh, are they?
What they're trying to do is they're trying to get
at some point, you know, it's all going to, people are just going to drop off. Because, you know, basically, this is America. This is not Red China. And, you know, we are a country built on liberty and everything. And to try to restrict how you can be a fan of somebody or control and all that kind of stuff, that's just totally crazy. That goes against everything that every boy that ever fought in every war and died for. We're not going to be turned into communist China by anybody, not even to love Elvis.
Yeah.
You know, that's my thing about it. I mean, I'm just too much of a person. I'm too much of an American to go along with that Gestapo type of thing. I would never go along with any of that.
Well, you know what EPE's trying to do? They're trying to break all the different fan clubs and make people come in and join what they call the Elvis Insiders. So what they're trying to do is have one big, huge fan club which they control.
Right.
That's what they're trying to do. And
well, and why do they want it?
I think so they can control it.
And why do they want control?
I don't know.
It's money.
Okay. Well, yeah.
It's all greed. They want to be able to go to companies and say, you know, we have this many on this mailing list and we can guarantee you this much promotion, and, you know, our stats say that if you invest here, you'll be able to get this much return on your money. It's all money. It's just merchandising. It's controlled merchandising, and, of course, they don't want anybody to merchandise anything, you know, or you know, they just want the control. That's what it is, and it's a greed factor. It's the same thing that Parker had. The minute he knew that Elvis was going to be big and not just one of his small, you know, shows, that, you know, all of a sudden he was in and went into a huge greed mode, and I understand that he ripped off Elvis. You know, in many ways. I think I think there's been books written about it. I never saw anything actually on it. But I mean, yeah, they're just exploiting the boy to the max. It's just an innocent, well, I don't know how innocent he was, but a simple little boy from Tupelo, Mississippi that didn't have a lot of savvy. You know, business savvy, obviously. He let the IRS file his taxes, you know. Hello. You know, so just take advantage of it, and it goes on. But I'll tell you one thing, it's a kiss of, if they really want to make money in the long run, if anything they do to hinder the fans or hurt the fans or restrict the fans, is going to backfire on them, because eventually there won't be any fans. You know, that the demise of the Elvis idol, like Rudolph Valentino, I mean, you know, now the Valentino fan club would get anybody anything if they would have a thing in Las Vegas, or if somebody was imitating Rudolph Valentino in Las Vegas. This is my mother's day of idols. And they would pay him $1 million to do it, because in the end, if you restrict the fans, you're going to lose the memory. You're going to cancel. You're going to mess up your own gold pot. You know, because the fans are the source of that gold.
Right.
When you really boil it down. And the day that you finally say, well, hey, you know, if I've got to go into be a communist China type, restricted liberty type fan in order to be a fan of Elvis, maybe I'll just find something else. Somebody else to be a fan of. Right.
Do you think people would actually even leave Elvis because of all that crap?
I think at a certain point, yeah, I think they do. They won't leave him, but you know, it's like, well, why bother? It's too much trouble. you know.
Yeah.
It's just all a big greed factory.
Now, you had...
Why should you, you know, you love Elvis, you can play records.
That's true.
At your house.
Yeah, and you'll never really leave him. Yeah.
You know, why do we need them anyway?
Now, did you find that out when you did the first fan club that Colonel Parker said, "Oh my goodness, what did I do here? I need to..."
At first he told me I could do anything I wanted because he didn't want to do it. And Elvis was just this young kid that he had signed along with it. Oh, he had a lot of attraction like Hank Snow and June Carter, and that I got a letter back saying, well, he's just one of our many. You know, that I do anything you want regarding a fan club. Well, you know, they were wanting me to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's because they didn't really have anything and they didn't have any facilities set up, and you know, he was just one of their attractions. So that was all good, and for a while it went really good. I mean, he got me backstage to see Elvis in San Antonio, and you know, it was like really, really good. But at some point, he got frightened of me.
And why was that, though? Well, why do you think he got frightened of you?
Well, I have no idea. I guess because so many people were joining my club. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I think the local newspapers, you know, when Elvis got big, they came out to my house and did a newspaper spread on me. And then, you know, of course, I'm an outgoing personality, even to this second. Mm-hmm. And it was like, you know, I started speaking at all kinds of things and going on television there locally, just as a teenager in high school. Mm-hmm. And you know, I wrote the review for Love Me Tender in our newspaper, and you know, with a big picture and all that. And you know, it's like I guess I just started getting too media profiled, and I guess too many kids started signing up to my club, and they saw, well, wait a minute. You know, this is our opportunity. We're not gonna. Mm-hmm. So I think it's kind of cool that I threatened Colonel Parker.
Now, was it after school that you started to write for Dig and stuff? And
no, it was during school.
You were still in high school?
Baby Rocket when I was in my senior year in high school.
Wow.
That was just crazy.
Yeah, I was just watching that.
Screenplay that's been floating around Hollywood right now and has been trying to. Sometimes these things take, you know, a million years, but it'll be a really cute story, sort of a combination of Bye Bye Birdie and Grease, only with real Elvis, and it's a real true story of my life, which is pretty documented in the media, in all the newspapers and magazines of that time. Mm-hmm.
I remember the question that somebody wanted me to ask you. It is about the jacket, but it's not about the Jailhouse Rock one. Do you remember the color of the jacket that Elvis had when he was at the Milton Berle show? Do you remember that color jacket?
I wasn't at the Milton Berle show, but there's thousands of pictures of it. It's like a...
Yeah, see, it's always black and white.
Gray kind of thing with a stripe on it.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of pictures. I think that could be easily resolved. I've seen the four color, and I've seen
I've seen it colorized too, and some people have it green, and some people say they think it's like pink.
No, I don't think it was pink. I don't really. Question answered. Don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think some people said it can't be pink. Elvis don't wear pink. I said, let me tell you something. Elvis could wear pink and pull it off. You and I can wear pink, and they question our sexuality, meaning men.
Pink was his flagship colors. The pink and black was his flagship colors. That's the whole flagship colors of the 50s.
Yeah.
And all our kids, we had pink and black Cadillacs, pink and black everything, pink and black poodle skirts.
Right.
And Elvis started the whole thing with a pink touch.
Wasn't your membership card pink and black?
Pink and black.
Yeah. Because it was...
They called it Presley Pink.
There you go. So there you go.
No, he could easily wear pink.
Yeah. What I'm talking to you for is because I'm doing this show. It's called EER, and we have 10,000 listeners, believe it or not. But the only way that we could, I have to ask your permission first. If I ask you a couple of questions, and it would be a phone interview. What I'm doing like right now, and what we do is I'll turn my cassette player on, and then I would just have you answer the questions, and then we put it to a disc, and then we play it over the air. It goes over in Europe. It's only played one time. It's never played again after that. But as long as you give me permission to do that.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then that's cool, too.
I'm not afraid of any. I'm fearless.
Yeah, I know that, and I told everybody.
56, and I'm the Fearless Kay Wheeler in 2007. Nothing's changed.
Yeah, I told everybody. I said, "Oh, you want to hear this?" Because it's on the web. I mean, if you go to this website, you can get to it after it airs, and then you could just download it, and you can put it on a disc or onto your hard drive, and you can have it forever. But we have 10,000 listeners, and it's just.
Really?
Oh, it's really going really.
Health's doing all right. I think you had some health issues.
I'm doing a lot better. I have like an electric thing. Remember the thing that Jerry Lewis they did with him? They put like an electrical shock thing in his back.
Right.
They did it to me. My life has changed. I have a life again.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you some questions. It's almost like I've never even talked to you before.
Okay.
Okay. When did you first meet Elvis Presley?
I first met Elvis in San Antonio, Texas, April 15th, 1956, right at the peak of his starting to move to the top of his fame, and he was still cute and exciting and wild and the Memphis Flash.
Yeah. Could you can you tell me anything else about it, or how he acted to you? I mean, you're a girl. He's a good-looking guy. Did he smooch up to you or anything? Or?
Of course he did. I've got a lot of photographs of that. And, you know, he was feely touchy.
Was he?
And, you know, we had a time in his private dressing room when I walked in, and Tom Diskin said, "Go on in, Elvis is in there." I said, "You want me to just go on in?" He said, "Yeah, just go on in." So I walked in, and he was sitting in front of the mirror, smoothing out his ducktail haircut, you know, and I walked behind him, and he spun around, and he got up, and I said, "Hi, my name is Kay Wheeler. I'm your fan club president." And he walks up to me, he looks at me, and he takes his hands and he goes down my sides and down all the way down to my hips, and he says, "Honey, is that all you?" And I go, "Oh my goodness," in my mind. And I said, "Yes." And so then he kind of grabbed me. He says, "Well, what do you want me to do?" He was so sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh boy, what do I want you to do? Well, no question. You know, but it seemed like immediately we had a good connection just as people, and he was really, really sweet. I pulled out some pictures, and I said, "Well, sign these," you know.
Mm-hmm.
So he started autographing, just the two of us in the room there together in his dressing room.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about, you know, he was going to be coming to Fort Worth, and I said, "Fort Worth, you got to come to Dallas." He says, "Well, Colonel Parker says Dallas is too big a venue." And I said, "No." I said, "We'll get you to Dallas." And he looked at me. He said, "Yeah, maybe you could." And we just had some nice conversation. And about that time, Tom Diskin put his head in the door and said, "You got to do your press interview." He said, he grabbed me. He said, "Come on." And so we've always had a real good connection. And during that time, I also had some off time with him between shows. When he went in the backstage, there was an organ, and he started playing. He sang Harbor Lights for me personally, you know, as I sat down with him in that area. So that was all a big thrill. And, of course, you know, we were doing some dancing, and I was dancing off the stage, and he'd come off and said, "I want to see some of those steps." And we had just a great, that was really the most fun meeting that I had with Elvis. And he was never like that again in all the times that I met him. I think it was about 6 or 7 more times after that I was with him.
Mm-hmm.
He was never as fun, never as free, and never as happy or as probably as healthy.
Mm. Well, do you think they tamed Elvis Presley, or do you think he just lost his spark?
Pardon?
Do you think they tamed him, or I think we all think that Colonel Parker thought Elvis was too wild. So do you think that's what they did?
Parker wanted to make money, so he thought, you know, if Elvis is too wild, this is going to hurt. Because you got to realize that when rock and roll hit in the 50s, it was treated like, you know, drugs or something. This music was like, first it was coming from the black community, which, of course, especially in the South where it all started, this was like, oh no, our little girls are dancing to this music.
Mm-hmm.
So there was already an uproar going on about rock and roll, and then when this white guy comes out here doing this music, he's like the Pied Piper. And all the kids are going to follow after him, the white kids. And, you know, then Elvis represented rock and roll. And it became like, it was pretty controversial. You'd had to have been alive to believe just how much controversy there was about the rock and roll at that time.
Yeah, I mean, I can read about it, and I can't imagine that they put so much into, because of dancing and because of a type of music, to think that there was, you know, that it would corrupt your daughter's soul and stuff. It's just ridiculous.
Oh, I was like labeled at school. I mean, you know, my teachers and all them, they wanted to kill me.
Really?
I mean, it was crazy. You know, you were a public enemy #1.
Wow.
And anybody that just even liked Elvis and stepped out like I did with the fan club, and of course that helped with all the peer, just to see a teenager step out and say, you know, we're going to organize this for Elvis. And at the time, he was hated by the adults in a way that's just hardly believable at this point.
Wow.
Trust me, it was there.
Wow. Now, would you get phone calls while Elvis was on the road?
Well, once the media thing started, and once he started going up, and because I had the high-profile fan club, I mean, my phone rang off the wall. I mean, it was like everybody wanted to... The media was interested in talking to a teenager, not talking to Elvis's manager about Elvis. They wanted to find out what this phenomena of not only Elvis was, but rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
What was going on? What was the... And nobody could define it in the adult community. You know, they couldn't really nail it down because they didn't have the knowledge of that. So I was in kind of like, you know, People magazines.
Yeah, you sounded like the first lady of rock and roll.
What is she going to say, you know?
Yeah, you almost sound like the first lady of rock and roll. Well, in a way, you were.
Well, I was, in its own small little way, yeah. I guess maybe you could say that. Let's put it this way: I was a spokesperson for it early on.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a bit about the Jailhouse Rock premiere?
I can tell you that, like I said, the most thing that I noticed was the big change in Elvis from Elvis and the early tours in Texas and in Shreveport and the other places I was with him. That he seemed to be more withdrawn. He seemed to be like kind of like a turtle in the shell type thing, not outgoing like he was before, and kind of, you know, wild and with abandonment. That he would just say anything he wanted to, you know, and just seemed to be happy back then. But he was already getting like more restricted and more confined, and I guess, you know, just under the confinement of what Parker was telling him to do, and I guess, you know, all the movie people and blah, 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 blah. The adults sort of stole our idol away.
Right.
You know, he was no more the rebel. See, remember, this was the generation of James Dean, the rebel without a cause, the wild one, Marlon Brando. These were the preceding idols for these teenagers of the 50s. Me. We fell in love with Marlon Brando and the wild one. We were already ready for something fun, believe me. We were ready for Elvis. And so we liked the abandonment and the rebel without a cause concept. And then when Elvis started getting too straight on and, you know, square maybe a little bit by listening to Parker. But Elvis was simple, and he wanted to do what he thought was going to be successful. And you know, Parker had, you know, technically helped him. And so he had reason to believe him and went with a program, you know, just kept doing what Parker said to do.
So now, was that the last time that you saw Elvis?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And my fan club had gotten so big by that point, and I was in Hollywood, you know, I went out there with American International Films to make some movies with them. I didn't know which ones. I did make one with Gene Vincent out there called Hot Rod Gangs. But there was an underground move by Colonel Parker to try to stop my fan club back then.
Wow.
I found that out later through some letters from one of the secretaries, Jody somebody, that gave me a copy. When she died, this person that had gotten a copy, bought her collection, sent me a copy of a letter where Parker was trying to give instructions to try to stop my fan club.
Wow.
I have it.
Now,
I got a copy of it.
Didn't they ask you, or did you look at like some of the first merchandise that came out?
Oh yeah, I had everything, and then I had designed some of my own.
Wow.
Because merchandising company came to me in Hollywood and said, "What kind of necklace would you want to design for Elvis, or what kind of thing do you think would be good?" People were coming at me from all sides.
Wow, that must have pissed Parker off.
Listen to this record. Do you think this is rock and roll? Movie people would come to me. I saw the first runs of Steve McQueen's Wanted Dead or Alive because the manager, the agent for Steve McQueen, called me and said, "Would you mind coming over and looking at this and see if you think he's got any potential?" So all of a sudden, everybody thought because they kind of associated me with the discovery of Elvis, everybody thought I automatically was going to know if that was another Elvis, or if this was a teen. I was a prominent teen, so they wanted to know, if the teen idol,
right.
That if I would find another one.
Yeah. Now, what did you?
When I was in Hollywood, I was like extremely busy all the time, and excuse that's my cell phone. You'll have to excuse me. Can I take a break here,
yeah.
please?
What did you think about seeing?
It was a lot going on for a young girl.
I bet.
16 and 17 years old. Let's put it that way.
Now, you wrote for Dig. Any other magazines, or you wrote for?
Pardon?
You wrote. You did some work in the Dig magazine. Any other magazines? I thought you did other ones too.
Oh yeah, Hollywood West Coast editor of Cool magazine. Cool magazine.
Yeah.
You don't get any much cooler than that. And Hepcats magazine. And I wrote for Modern Screen.
Wow.
And, there was lots of stuff going on and lots of media exposure. A lot for a young girl, like I say.
Yeah, it sounds like. What did you think of the 70s Elvis when you looked at him? And what did you think?
Well, I to tell you the truth be told, I kind of had when I was about, 24 or 25, I had like a kind of a real, spiritual experience in my life where I had already seen everything, and I'd seen Elvis, and I made movies, and I'd been married, I had my kid, and everything, and I looked back at everything, and I thought, is this all there is? And I had like a really good spiritual experience that really turned my life around, and I think it's probably why I'm so strong and happy and peaceful today, that I did find the light shining brighter somewhere, okay, that Elvis sang about. And, I kind of decided that rock and roll was not going to cure the world's ills, neither was Elvis. And I took a more serious turn. I even went to law school and, enrolled in college. And, I was very serious because I knew I was smart, smarty pants. But so I just wanted to find out the other side of me. I was rock and roll, hoochie coo, and crazy teenager and all that. But I wanted to see about the other side of me, which was definitely a more serious side. So to answer your question about Elvis in the 70s, at that point I was kind of like, that stuff is just, that's not going to answer any of the issues that I saw that were so important to the world at that time. So I kind of grew up, let's put it that way.
What do you think about Elvis's still popularity to this day? I mean, are you just blown away that he's still so popular?
When I was interviewed in the Waco Tribune back in 1956 after Elvis played Dallas in October of 56, and they interviewed me and they said, how long do you think Elvis will last? And this is my answer, and it's printed in a book. I said, Elvis will last as long as there are women around.
You got that.
And, I think that's really accurate assessment. I mean, Elvis was something for the girls, and he was. But in the beginning, the guys didn't like Elvis at all. I mean, the guys like Elvis now that he's dead and he's not a competitor. But nobody wanted to compete with Elvis Presley. Let me tell you, none of my boyfriends did.
No.
I lost two of my main boyfriends over him when I was a teenager.
They just couldn't take it. They just
couldn't take it. They just couldn't take it.
Wow.
And the adoration was so intense that it was like, what are you doing? What are you thinking? Why are you talking about him constantly when I'm here, So, yeah, I mean, Elvis was like, he was adorable, and he was like an expression of freedom, and his dancing and his intensity and his beautiful voice and, of course, his good looks and all of it. He's every girl's secret dream guy.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, hon. Thank you very much. I'll email you. Let me turn this.